It all began here. NASCAR's first officially sanctioned race took place on the beach just a few miles from this behemoth track. Who would have thought at that time that less than 40 years later, cars would be breaking 200 miles per hour around paved banking multiple stories high? Racing has always been a test of the brave, and today will be no different as we get ready to watch Round 9 of the NASCAR Legends Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is DJ Clark. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Fans of American stock car racing are no doubt familiar with the halls of Daytona, but in case we have new viewers, let's head to our track guide to learn more about this unique achievement in motorsports. Welcome to Daytona International Speedway. This track began life after Bill Sr. realized the Daytona Beach road course had outgrown itself. With ambitious plans and the blessing of the city officials, he built what would become the very first superspeedway in NASCAR history. At 2.5 miles and with 31 degrees of banking, stock cars easily reach speeds of around 200 miles per hour. Pretty much every car can take the course flat out. This makes for one of the most unique styles of racing motorsports has ever seen. The slipstream allows drivers to stay with one another so easily that it becomes less about the speeds each driver can reach and more about the strategy of racing in a pack. Bump drafting is a technique in which the car behind actually pushes the car in front so that both are able to reach higher speeds. And side drafting is another in which the drivers use the air off the sides of their cars to slow their opponents down. Staying out of trouble is always a difficult aspect of superspeedway racing, and it's not uncommon to see drivers intentionally move to the back of the pack to avoid the chaos. In fact, the high speeds make large wrecks so hard to avoid that the term "the big one" has become commonplace to refer to the almost inevitable multi-car pileups the circuit is known for. Also, entering pit lane is its own skill, which requires practice in order to slow the car up as quickly and safely as possible. Keeping the car clean and in contention is the main goal for much of the event. Then the final few laps, it's a race to the line with any alliances usually dissolving and the driver's urge to win taking over. With it being home to one of the world's most famous races, the Daytona 500, fans from around the globe flock to this landmark circuit. Just like the cars on it, the Daytona International Speedway shows no signs of slowing down. Well, that's with more modern stock cars racing around here, and today we go back to the classics. So, DJ, how is that going to change this style of super speedway racing?
Well, Joe, for one, you're not going to see nearly as much pack racing as we used to see, or as we're used to seeing around these sacred walls of Daytona. It's going to be a little bit more spread out. You're still going to see them bunched up together pretty well, but the sort of tandem bump drafting that you see, not really going to be the way it is. And because we are on the legacy track here today, it is going to be very, very bumpy. Holding your line through the corners is going to be a little bit more difficult than it normally would be. Not to mention the fact that with these 87 Cup cars, these great classic cars, you've got to watch turn in. These cars are very tricky to get down, specifically if you're trying to run the low line. It can be very, very difficult to keep the car pointed in the right direction and get everything wired up and ready to go.
We'll keep an eye on that and see if anybody falls afoul of it. But before we get to the racing, let's take a look at the Drivers' Championship. Currently, Cody Dutton is up at the top of things, 96 points ahead of Jeremy Davis, and they're already starting to have the drop points come into play in this, mind you. So Cody is sitting pretty. Between Davis and Cole Dutton, though, look at that. They are separated by a mere 16 points. You go back to Blake McCandless, who runs in fourth. He's got a bit to make up. And Gabriel Mauricio runs in fifth currently in the points and has a large gap to try and run down to get to the front runners. What about today's event details, DJ? What are we looking at?
Well, as we said, we are in round 12, or round 9 of 12 in this NASCAR Legends Series. It's going to be a 35-lap race here today, fixed setup, and full course cautions. So what that means is that we probably will see some guys hopping down pit lane to take a tire or two to try to get everything figured out. Tire wear should be pretty important here at Daytona.
Indeed. In fact, to give us an update on that, we have a pit reporter in with us today. We're joined by Christopher Graham Jr., who has been watching the warm-up, watching some previous racing today. It sounds like, Christopher, that things are perhaps going to be a little bit different from what one would expect.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, and it's a pleasure to be with you guys this evening. And yeah, iRacing made some pretty big changes to these cars after last season. Now, the teams have had plenty of time to work out the kinks, but they are still significantly more difficult to drive than what we saw at the end of the 2020 season. Like DJ mentioned, tire wear is going to be an absolute concern for these drivers, so don't be surprised to see the front runners diving down pit lane if the caution flag flies at any point in this one.
So let's see if they keep it clean and that forces even more difficult pit strategy, or if we get a chance for a breather and drivers come down in and join Christopher on the lane. As we finish up qualifying right now, Nick Lovell is currently on the provisional pole with Hagan only 7 1/1000ths behind him. In fact, it is extremely tight between our top five, split by barely over a tenth of a second, which in normal super speedway racing would seem actually quite large, but as you can see, these cars much more of a handful here at the old track with these old cars. All right, the grid is set. So let's go through our starting order today. Lovell, as we mentioned, has put it onto the pole. Damian Hagan will be starting in second, and Tanner Cook starts P3. Alexander Veldman puts it into fourth with the inside of row 3, having Andrew Mendez in P5. Jake Phipps starts sixth today. You got Jack Bailey in seventh and Kyle Graham in eighth. Then it's going to be Damian Sparbuyer in the ninth position. The outside of row 5 has Riley Downey.
In the 11th place will be Ryan Harris, followed by Jordan Mapes in 12th. The inside of row 7 will be Jason Clapper and Kurt Clapper. Outside of him, these drivers did not set a time here today. Nathan Brown will line up in row 8, followed by Patrick Donberger. Michael Kelly will make up row 9 alongside Leslie Jones, and bringing up the back of the field will be Tony Johnson back in 19th.
Just about have everybody lined up on the grid here as we get ready to take off for round 9 of the NASCAR Legends Series here at Daytona. What better place to kick off a broadcast in these fantastic looking cars? It might not be the exact year that these cars race that this scan is from, but I'm sure for the drivers inside, DJ, it'll might as well feel like it.
Oh, it certainly does. And iRacing has done a fantastic job of really trying to capture historic racing across the spectrum, both with the introduction of these 87 NASCARs, as well as some of the classic open-wheel cars that you see on the service, like the Lotus 49 and the Lotus 79s, as well as the cars seen in Camel GT. So it's very, very cool to sort of jump back in time and go back into this kind of thing. And certainly, in this case, definitely rings true of a certain old movie that we like to think about with these cars.
Exactly, which actually came out not too long after that 87 season, just a few years later. Yes, indeed, if you do enjoy those retro series, you can actually tune in all this coming weekend. Lotus 49 will be up first tomorrow morning at 8:30 a.m. Eastern. Then at noon, the Camel GT drivers will kick it off. And if that's not enough for you, wait just a little bit on Sunday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern. The Lotus 79 cars will then have their turn over with classic F1 racing. All right, we take off on our pace lap. Lovell will kick them off with Hagan to his outside. As we now hop on board with our number 9 car, looking ahead at the Mustang pace car. I also love one thing that these retro series tend to do a lot is some of the vintage liveries that you see pop up on these cars, and this series is no exception. I see a Bobby Labonte in there. Actually, I see a few fictional ones. We caught a Daytona USA car out there. That is a nice looking traditional livery there on the 76.
Yeah, it's always one of the things that any of the drivers out here, whether they are professional or amateur painters, it's always kind of fun to go back and be driving in the car that you used to cheer for as a kid. So certainly doesn't do anything to actually make the car go faster, but it certainly makes you drive a little bit harder if you're in your hero's livery.
Certainly. As we watch from on board that number 8, running that classic Bobby Labonte, which I don't think this was a scheme from that era. I think he ran that more in the mid-90s, if I'm not mistaken. Even still, looks pretty cool, I have to admit, on the old Chevy. As we get ready to go here in just a moment, as the Mustang pace car is going to give way. Lovell has control. Green flag is out, and the number 1 is off. He's got a pretty good start even, but they're going to reel him in pretty soon as the slipstream starts to pick up. They head down into turn 1 for the first time, and hard to believe that's possibly the slowest they'll be down into turn 1 all race.
Certainly, and you see some of those drivers down on the low side. That is the number 2 there of Andrew Mendez, struggling a little bit, getting the car down onto the apron. We talked about the turn, and we've got our first car into the wall.
Looks like the 12 involved in that, and we got a caution. Unfortunately, Riley Downey also catching a bit of it. Tanner Cook in the 4. Drivers behind able to take avoiding action. So let's see where this exactly started. I think it was Tanner Cook in the 4, actually. Looks like he's going to hit the outside wall, and poor Veldman in the 12 is just going to find himself with few places to escape.
Yeah,
this is it right here.
Yep, you see him impact up into the wall, and then Veldman behind him there. You see the 12 just kind of getting a little bit of incident fixation. That, of course, just what happens when you focus in. That is Veldman spinning around there. So that's exactly what went on there. You called it right, Joe.
Ooh, and unfortunately, another one involved is Sparbuyer. Here's from on board 4. The 17 almost got through it, but Damien, unfortunately, finding himself just collected at the end. There are a few drivers hailing from the Australia region trying to race here today. Yeah, there's a piece of it. He's going to slap that outside wall. That damage, unfortunately, is hard to fix. He might be down on speed.
Yeah, he might be, and that is one of the characteristics of these old retro NASCAR series, is that they can be very, very difficult to control when they get in a tail slide like that.
Down in pit lane, we've got an update from Christopher Graham. Sounds like we've already had some technical problems.
Yeah, it sounds like the issue for Tanner Cook's number 4 machine was a bit of a hardware issue, saying his wheel locked up, meaning on the hardware side, the actual sim rig that he's running in. So that was the issue, putting the 4 car into the fence early.
It's sad to see so many fall victim to what was really not his fault there, as we are riding behind the pace car for the first time. Didn't even get to complete our first lap of 35. It's cost us 3 drivers. Cook, obviously, Clapper, both Jason and Kurt have decided that their day is over ahead of time. Veldman is taking some repairs down along with Christopher, along with Sparbuyer and Downey. So we'll jump back to Chris in a moment to see what kind of damage they're able to get repaired, and also what kind of damage simply on the cars. In the meantime, DJ, looks like Lovell still retains the lead with Hagan in second and Mendez in third. So at least not much change up at the front in our half a lap.
No, it does not. And I have to say, Hagan's car looking very, very good. He was one of the guys who was running that inside line, and unlike Mendez we saw in the back, Hagan was able to really get it turned down well on that line. So he's going to be one to watch. He's clearly got a good feel for the car here, but we'll have to see how this all shakes out a little bit later. Obviously not really enough to be able to get a full understanding of how these cars are going to be handled.
I see at least one car taken off, and I know Chris has had time to hustle down and take a glance at what they look like. Chris, what's the damage report?
Seeing the car, the 12 of Alexander Veldman, that car has some pretty significant rear end damage. He may be done for the event here. Ryan Downey making his way off a pit road, pretty heavy front end damage on the front of that number 7 machine. And also taking a look here at Damian Sparbier, a little bit less damage, but that's all on the right side where he pancaked the outside wall really hard. So aerodynamics are going to be absolute junk on the 17.
So really a bad day right from the get-go for him. And do we have the lights off on the pace cars? We watch the Aussie driver, the Australian-New Zealand club driver, I should clarify. We don't know if he's from New Zealand specifically, if he is going to catch back up. As the lights are indeed off, we're going to get a single file restart with Lovell up at the front. And to lap here as we'll get going on lap number 5 here today for round 9.
We will, and as you said, this is single file, so going back to old school NASCAR style here, not the double file restarts we are used to seeing. What that's going to mean for Lovell is he's going to have a little bit more of an area to pick and choose where he wants to go, but he's got to be careful because tucking up behind in that multiple car draft, that can really slingshot you, and when these cars are at the low speeds that they are, getting even just that little bit of draft can really help pull you up to speed fast.
Down the super stretch towards the turn 3 banking. We're on board for a moment. Looked like a little bit of weaving from some of our drivers. Remember, they didn't get a whole lot of time to get the tires up to temperature. Wonder if that'll help a few of them, DJ, get an advantage.
It might, but Joe, I gotta say, temperature's out right now. It's about 97 degrees Fahrenheit on track. Very, very little wind, only about 2 miles an hour coming out of the north. So these tires, even though they're not running at full temperature, they are going to be making contact with that hot track, and I don't think heat's going to be the biggest concern for them.
All right, green flag waves here on our first restart of the day. Coming through the tri-oval, Lovell is looking like he's got a handy start. But behind them, don't forget Hagan in that 9 and Mendez in his number 2. In fact, Mendez is quite strong, but he gets chopped off down into 1 up to his high side. The number 8 of Jake Phipps is easily going to overtake the pair of them.
He is, but Jake had to check up a little bit off of the wall there to just barely blunt his momentum. He's going to have a nose over Hagan as they go down now into 3 and 4. Everybody clear down the backstretch. They span out single file, and they have caught the leader of Nicholas Lovell.
But unfortunately, momentum not in favor of Phipps. Coming through 3 and 4. Car looks very loose coming off the high side. He'll drop back, so Hagan regains that second place, and Mendez will regain third. As they swing it through the tri-oval, I hear a bit of wrecking behind, and that looks to be Sparbuyer. His damaged car takes a tow, so no caution. Oh, but Mendez is suddenly spinning. Oh, and a few were going to get collected in it. He just threaded the needle between a few cars, but unfortunately not able to avoid it, and as he ends up on his lid, he will indeed have to take a tow. DJ, let's take a look at the replay.
It's diving that car down low like we talked about, and they just caught him out there. You see catching a little bit of the 15 there and onto his lid. Nowhere to go. We watch here again. Now watch this as he starts to try to get the run, works his way up high and tries to dive the car down low. That doesn't exactly work for him, and that's going to send the car into a spin, into a one-way ticket into the wall.
We saw Kyle Graham on that replay. Unfortunately, the 11 does get a piece of it initially. I thought he worked his way through. So I think some big damage on the rear of that car as well. Let's see here. We're going to watch one more look at it. This has got to get your nerves on edge a little bit here. Remember, they're going at about 170, 180. Ooh, wow. Big hit.
And Joe, I will tell you, there is no shot of adrenaline worth more than anything in the world than running at a super speedway and seeing a car spin out in front of you. It is a surefire way to get your heart rate up. You've just got to, frankly, pull the Days of Thunder and put your foot into it and go.
As you would expect with that incident, we had more heading down pit lane. Let's head to Christopher Graham to see what the story is with a few of our drivers getting service. I think we've got
damage.
Oh, there we go. Sorry, we didn't hear you for a second there, Christopher.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, the 2 of Andrew Mendez, pretty heavy front end damage. Also, the 15 of Leslie Jones, also seeing a good bit. Both of those cars will be DNFs in this one. Jordan Mapes also out of the race as well.
Already some retirements. And we got a couple more coming your way, it looks like. I think we have some scheduled stops coming for Veldman and Downey.
Yeah, we'll take a look at them as they head down pit lane here. Veldman and Dowley. Riley Dowley has already made a couple of pit stops involved in the prior incident. Veldman also with damage from the earlier incident. We'll see. Both of those cars look to be taking a little bit of an extended repair here with the time it takes for the pace car to circle all the way around this 2.5 mile oval.
I'd already forgotten. Apologies that we had some other drivers dealing with some damage. Once we got a close-up look, yeah, they are certainly sporting a bit of unofficiated aero. Meanwhile, we still have 10 cars left on track. We've lost Jones, Mendez, Mapes, Sparbuyer, Cook, Clapper, and Clapper. So almost half the field could be gone here, and we are only on lap 8, DJ.
We are, but it is certainly not without action, as you have seen just how close these cars are willing to run up to one another. Really, really doing a good job. This is a little bit of a slow burn here at the start, I'll admit it, but you've got to say there is a lot of raciness going on here in this battle between Lovell, Hagan, Bailey, Phipps, any of these guys out front. We've seen speed on the high side, we've seen speed on the low side. This is anywhere but over.
Let's hope we can get back to some green flag racing soon here. And I see Riley Downey is headed back out onto the track. The Canadian going to try and salvage whatever he can to get some points here today. Veldman, unfortunately, is still stuck in his stall from what I can see here in the booth. Let's see if we get the lights off this time. We head on past the start-finish line. And indeed, lights are out. We are going racing on lap 10.
Well, and Joe, we saw on that last restart, the Lovell was really able to get a good gap for about a half a lap before everybody else caught up to him. Now, that's something that's going to be on Nick's mind. He is going to be thinking about how to time this restart exactly right and catch the guys behind him napping. But the way the draft works here, he's not going to be able to do it for too long.
He held it for at least one lap before. Let's see if he learned anything, if he's got any tricks up his sleeve to hold on to it at least a little bit longer. If we can keep the racing green. Definite damage on the 11 of Kyle Graham. We saw him take a big clip from that last incident, and he did not come in for repairs. So there's probably a giant question mark over Graham's head on whether that car will be up to pace. That is the back of Jake Phipps that we see there in the number 8, just ahead of him. Number 4, of course, on your screens with a special paint scheme on the car, mimicking that old Sterling Marlin paint scheme. As the base car takes them around 3 and 4 Mustang. But once again, let Lovell retake the lead, and it's Hagan behind him. But now it is Jack Bailey in the number 5, 2 on your screens, I should say. Restarting from 3rd. As the pace car gets ready to duck in, there it goes. Green flag waves. Hagan is off. Once again, Bailey's going to get a nice slingshot as he's a little bit back, and we've immediately got a caution. My goodness, this is Feldman and Downey. Damaged cars, clearly not handling well.
No, not at all, as that's going to bring out a little bit of a frustrating caution for a lot of these lead guys just wanting to get up and going. Looks like they tried to put the power on and just absolutely nothing doing. Those cars still not underneath them.
Yeah, I think there was a checkup, unfortunately. Downey got going, and the car ahead of him, which was Tony Johnson, didn't go as quick as he expected, so that's what caused the 7 to wind up spinning as he was suddenly shoved from Veldman behind. I think we've got a little bit of time here for a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing Channel, as we've got back-to-back cautions, unfortunately. So we'll come back with more racing here for round 9 in the NASCAR Legends Series. Stick around with more yet to come. Welcome back to Daytona International Speedway. As we wait under caution, we've had a lot of yellows here in the early stages of round 9 in the NASCAR Legends Series, but we, of course, always have hopes high that we'll get some good green flag racing going as we're going to restart on lap 14 out of 35 here today. Nicholas Lovell is our leader and has been since the drop of the green. He's been followed by Hagan in that same second spot since we started. But we have had Jack Bailey in the number 5 jump into third place since we started this race, having lost a few drivers along the way. The Mustang pace car leads Nick around turns 3 and 4. Eagerly anticipates what we hope to be some good racing here in just a moment at this old bumpy Daytona Speedway. Off of turn 4, he holds it up high as the Mustang peels in, and the Chevy Monte Carlo accelerates away. Nick Lovell is taking off, and once again, looks like a much better start for the number 5, already looking around the outside of Hagan.
Yeah, Jack Bailey really able to time that right. He is already up and by, and look now, but here comes Jake Phipps coming around the outside as well. He's going to be able to grab the draft off of Jake Bailey as they head on to the backstretch.
Here they come, gaining on Lovell. He's going to go down to the low side to try and cover them off, but a whole head of steam for Jack Bailey puts him up into the lead. He can't quite chop down in front of him. He starts to drop back with a longer line around the outside as they come around turn 4 now. He'll retain second place, though. Behind him, it's a battle for third with Hagan on the inside and Phipps on the outside.
Phipps running a very, very good conservative line here, not putting too much out early. They're going to be perfectly side by side, 2 by 2 as they dive down. We watch on board here with Kyle Graham. That is back and fifth. You can see the battle developing. Lovell able to pull out ahead. Oh, up into the wall a little bit is Jack Bailey. Just scrapes it. That's not going to bring out anything, but it is going to slow him down.
Big time, and this splits them up at the front. Lovell now only has Hagan behind him. Phipps had to check up to try and stay away from running into the back of Bailey. And as they continue on, your order is still Nick, Bailey, and Jake. Your top 3. This has been under the control of that number 1 car in an impressive way, despite being challenged a few times.
Indeed, he has been absolutely able to just keep everything in check and under control, exactly how he wants to. There you see him drifting up the track ever so slightly. That's a little bit of just letting where the car wants to go, not trying to fight it too much, as well as having the added benefit of breaking the draft to Hagan behind him. But Hagan really closes up there, starting to pick out lines here, deciding where they're going to go. Looks like Lovell's going to dive down onto that medium line. Oh, big squirrely rear end there from Damian Hagan.
These bumps are not easy as we got another caution, and I see Kyle Graham involved in it in the 11, as well as the 13 of Daubenberger. Let's see what caused this one. And I suspect this starts with the 11 here, it looks like, of Kyle Graham.
Yeah, we're going to jump back here to the GSRC replay, and indeed it does look like, as you will see here, Kyle Graham, a little bit of a self-spin here, some damage already to the rear of that car. You can see on the right side, goes in, the car just starts to break away from him, tries to catch it, and runs back up the banking, and that's going to catch Daubenberger out a little bit and send him into the outside wall as well.
Big hit, unfortunately, for Patrick. We're going to watch from his perspective. That's the 10 up in front of him, Nathan Brown, who just sees the seas part and basically keeps his foot planted and acts like nothing happened.
Yeah, Nathan definitely thanking his lucky stars. You can watch here again. There you see Graham starts to lose it, and Brown just keeps his foot in it, keeps on going, and probably thanking his lucky stars.
Absolutely. We got some good racing in there for a brief while, but we are once again under caution. So that brings a few more of our drivers down pit lane, including, I see some of our leaders coming in. Christopher, what's the story down as they approach you?
Everybody on the lead lap making their way down the pit lane. The 11 of Kyle Graham already here on the pit lane. Heavy damage to that number 11 machine. Seeing
I think we lost Christopher again a little bit. He'll have to work on his transfer.
There we go. Let's see. Okay. Looks like going to be 4 tire changes for...
I think we've got to get Christopher a new transmitter, unfortunately, as Lavelle is exiting out first. But in second, Nathan Brown in the number 10. So apparently had a much better stop. Jack Bailey follows him in third. Well, third of the drivers who have pitted. Phipps stays out, though. So everybody but a single car has pitted so far in this sequence. That was fascinating, DJ. I'm curious to see how things will play out amongst them.
I am too, and I talked a little bit earlier about how Jake Phipps was really just kind of taking it calm, not looking like he was putting too many jerky inputs into the wheel. I think he's clearly thinking about the long game here, thinking about trying to save a little bit of tire wear. Although I have to say, if they don't get another yellow, as we continue to see this field diminish a little bit, it may come out to bite him. But if he's able to get a yellow later on in the race at the right time, this could be an absolutely brilliant move from Phipps.
That track position has looked relatively valuable. They had a hard time trying to get by the number 1, who is going to inherit third now. I think we had another car duck in. That was Tony Johnson in the 16. So it looks like he's going to fall to the back of the line. A couple drivers taking long repairs. Dalbenberger, Graham, and Veldman going multiple laps down, unfortunately, here. Which leaves us with at least 7 on the lead lap, and looks like 8 on the lead lap, as Johnson will be able to come back out.
Yeah, so Johnson is going to be happy to be able to get that back. He'll be able to hang on to the back of this lead pack. Hopefully not too much damage on him, but we will have to see how that shakes down. Meanwhile, Jake Phipps out in the lead, and he has Riley Downey in between him and Nicholas Lavelle to try to break that up a little bit. So how will Lavelle be able to counter this? We've seen what he can do when he's in clean air, but now he's going to have some dirty air in front of him to try to take into consideration as well.
Okay. How is he going to handle the change of the situation? And Riley Downey, who you see in front of him, has quite a bit of damage. So I'm not sure how quick this 7 is going to be. I suspect that he'll find himself falling back pretty quickly as the lights are out, so we're getting ready to restart. As the pace car takes them off of turn 4. Hanging up on the high side, Jake Phipps ready to try and take it. Briefly down low, I thought Riley Downey was going to hand over his position knowing that damage, and once again he backs up. Yeah, looks like he's going to let drivers easily get by knowing that he's not going to have speed. Green flag is out. The number 8 is off like a shot, but here comes the number 1 as Lavelle is gaining on the high side quite quickly.
He is indeed, and Jack Bailey again having a mega restart, working his way up. He's already up to third and getting ready to start the challenge here, but we ride on board with Lavelle as he tries to chase down Jake Phipps here. Gets in the draft down the backstretch and hungs it to the inside, down under the yellow line.
And apparently wanted to give him a little bit of a bump draft, but it went south. As they come up to the banking, he's going to take the low side, not protecting the inside. The number 8 leaves the door open, slides off the corner, and hands the lead away. Back up to the front pretty quickly. Nicholas Lavelle, once again, back into the spot he's comfortable with.
He is, and that is Jack Bailey challenging down on the inside as well. He's able to tuck up behind, has to check up ever so slightly before drifting up the track up towards towards Jake Phipps, but he's able to collect it and keep it going. We ride on board with Bailey right now. They are in an absolute drag race down the backstretch. That is Bailey, the only one down to the inside of the entire field.
And don't count out Hagan. He ran in second place for much of this race. Back into turn 3 they go. Hagan way up high, hanging it out, and then tucks it back down low as we hop on board with that number 9, watching the top 3 duke it out for the lead.
Oh, and Joe, you can see just how much the suspension has to deal with everything, dealing with the bumps. And what is this? That is Jake Phipps challenging Nicholas Lavelle up on the high side. Tries to get it. Carr tries to step away from him. He's got to catch it. That's going to hand it back to Lavelle. But those old tires clearly still have some life in them for Jake Phipps.
He's going to run up on him. Is he going to get the inside? He's thinking about it. As we ride on board with our leader, no, he covers off the inside. Phipps holds his line, stays in second. This is bringing quite a bit of the group in. Nathan Brown as well, gaining on them and is in 5th off of turn 4 one more time. It's becoming a group of 5 at this point. Great slingshot for the 8. Phipps gets a run up on the high side, but he hasn't been able to make this attempt stick yet.
He has not. He's going to try it again, but that car just looking like it doesn't exactly do what he wants to do, but he tucks up in the draft in the middle of the turn. Just gets that extra little bit of slingshot. He's going to try it down the backstretch now, but he's too far alongside. But here comes Bailey pulling right in behind as Phipps has got a nose ahead.
They come into turn 3 once again. It looks like Phipps can't get the low line away from the number 1. Off the corner. Whoa! Lavelle's hanging it out.
Oh, he is, but Phipps is having none of it, and moved Jake Phipps up into the lead, almost into the wall, but up in front as they dive into turn 1. Will Lavelle not giving him a fight? He's going to poke his nose out just a little bit more, try to see what he can do.
Approaches to the back of the number 8. As he looks down the inside, is he going to get a helpful push from the 5? Not quite. Bailey bides his time, decides he wants to see how this plays out between the pair of them, and back up in front of Phipps. Nicholas is going to put himself into the top spot through 3 and 4. Oh, a lot of the apron caught there by Phipps. Somehow keeps the car from turning around. My goodness, the number 8 had one crazy moment. I can't believe he's still in this race.
I can't believe he didn't lose a lot of momentum there, Joe. He's still up in 3rd. That may be one of the moves of the year I've seen out of Jake Phipps.
So as we ride on board with the 4th place driver, Hagan sees a blocked track with both of them spread out in front. Phipps to the low side, Bailey to the high side. They regain in the slipstream on the number 1 as they come into turn 3, but getting a little bit loose there. The 5 finding it difficult to control. He checks up and falls back into line.
Looked like there may have just been an inkling of contact in there between Phipps and Bailey, but both drivers able to continue on. Here they go down the main straight. Looks like Bailey's going to try to get a little bit of a slingshot, but he checks up, and instead that slingshot's going to go courtesy of the backdraft there coming into Jake Phipps, but he has to check up behind Nick Lavelle. They're going to stay 1, 2, 3, but fanning out a little bit. Oh, that was Phipps getting down onto the apron.
We're down to 10 laps to go. Remember, Phipps is the only one without fresh tires compared to those around him. Maybe that's what's making this so hard for him to control the car coming off the turns. And he's going to lose second now as Jack Bailey manages to sneak through. Can Bailey do what Phipps could not? Can he manage to overtake Lavelle and keep it in front of him?
Well, that's the big question here. He's got a good slingshot, it looks like, coming up behind Lavelle. He's going to poke his nose to the outside. We saw Phipps do that time and time again, but maybe the new tires can do it. No, Bailey's going to check up a little bit. That in turn checks up Phipps behind him. Hagan has to check up as well, but here comes the momentum for Jack Bailey on the outside. Can he keep it off the wall? No!
Into the wall, and he smacks it. No caution as he keeps it from turning around. They're down to 3 now as it's between Lavelle, Phipps, and Hagan. Going to be 8 to go at the line. Still running the high side there in the number 8. Jake Phipps is not willing to give this one up. Both of them having to hold on to the tails as they waggle off the corner.
And remember, Phipps did not take a pit stop, which just makes his tire wear here absolutely incredible that he's able to hold on to that car. They're going to be side by side as they dive into one. Momentum starts to shift over. Oh, big wiggle for Phipps!
He catches it once again. How many lives does this cat have? It'll put him into third, though. He drops many positions with his momentum interrupted. And that now leaves it between Lavelle and Hagan once again. It's almost like nothing happened, as the top two that we saw earlier in the race are the same top two that we had before.
I am still just in absolute awe of Jake Phipps's car control, and I want him to teach a master class on how to keep the car pointing in a straight direction, because I will be the first one to sign up for that. Oh my goodness gracious, Joe, this guy knows how to handle this car.
Oh, but he's in the wall again. I think those tires have left him. Say goodnight, because they are dead. And unfortunately, that means that we won't see him probably catch up to our top group. He is holding on to the back of our third place driver, though. He's keeping Nathan Brown honest, so that could be a lot of fun here as the laps tick down. Down to 7 to go, though. I wonder if we could bring in Christopher Graham once again. Chris, you've been talking to some of the pit crews. It sounds like some of the maneuvers as the cars get close to one another is some little trickery here with the aerodynamics.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of, basically when the cars get up on each other, when you pull up real tight in the corner, it sucks all the air off the spoiler. And these spoilers for this season were knocked down to 10 degrees. So there's not much there to begin with, and when you pull that air off, these things become incredibly difficult to drive. I mean, I am absolutely...
I'm sure he'd been absolutely shocked there as, again, get a little bit of a cutoff there from Christopher Graham, but I agree. Just incredible to watch these drivers strategize out here. It's so different from what we see in modern times with these 87 Cup cars. Down to 5 laps to go, DJ, and it looks to me that Hagan is reeling him in. But what is going on here? Phipps, who we thought was out of the equation, is already back with them.
Pulling a Michael Corleone when you thought I was out. They pull him back in. That's right. That is him. That is Jake Phipps, Mr. Car Control himself, making a move off of turn 2 down the backstretch to get himself back into second position.
Fantastic stuff. He's got to run, but he runs out of straightaway, so he backs it up here into 3 and 4. Last time he couldn't quite make it happen as he attacked relentlessly on Nicholas Lavelle. What is he going to do different this time? What lessons has he learned?
Well, we're about to find out. Little bit of a bump there. Just him saying hello, trying to get him off the track ever so slightly and get that bottom line over to Phipps. It looks like it worked there. You see Lavelle running a higher line than Phipps, getting a little bit clearer air. Ooh, Phipps has got to watch him straight down onto the apron. That can send that car into a spin, and he does not want to go for 3 here today.
And I almost wonder if Phipps was doing exactly what we heard from Christopher through the tri-oval, just trying to get the air off the rear of Lavelle and getting him all loosey-goosey. Going to be 3 to go this time at the line. Phipps backs it up a little bit as he's setting up for a run.
I think you hit the nail on the head. Here comes the momentum for Phipps. He goes to the outside, but he's in the wall.
Just clips it. Once again, finds himself losing momentum, but this also checks up Hagan, who's down low and can't use all the speed he wants through the corner. Lavelle now practically has free reign, and he's got 2.5 laps to try and take this thing to the checkered flag.
Looking at Jake Phipps, that car still wanting to dance all over the place, and just positively tough there for him to try to get anything, but they've got 2 laps to try to pull this back in now.
And behind them, Nathan Brown once again collects them up and sees if he can also try and be a factor down through 1 and 2 once again. The Brown, number 1 of Nicholas Lavelle, has led by far most of the laps this race. And he's fended off all comers, but he's got to do it for 1 more lap, and he has to do it through lap traffic as they're quickly approaching damaged cars.
They are indeed, and I think they may just get him going numbers are right, but this is going to be a shootout because here they come. Hagan, Phipps, and even Brown, but Phipps with the run as we go into the tri-oval.
He gets up behind him, but he has nowhere to go once again. What about Hagan? Does Hagan think that he could maybe pull one from third place up to the lead? He goes to the high side as the other two start low. Let's see who's got the best slingshot here with a white flag waving. Once again, having to go by lap traffic who stays out of the way. Down the back stretch, it's not looking good for Phipps. Meanwhile, behind them, here's a massive run for Hagan. He gets to the inside of the 8. He's going to door him. He gets him out of the way, but that knocks him loose, and Hagan doesn't have the speed now. Lavelle is well and clear as those behind falter. Nicholas took the pole. He had to fight for it, but he's going to take the win for round 9 in the NASCAR Legends Series.
Absolutely mega run from Nicholas Lavelle, and it looks like Nathan Brown. You said he was picking up the pieces, Joe. That's exactly what he did. He is able to come away with the P2 with Damian Hagan coming home in third place.
Wow. Way to go, Nathan Brown, on that one. So Phipps had to settle for fourth. Let's watch that incident one more time. See if we can dissect this one. Pull that up. I mean, I can't really blame him too much here, DJ, because the Hagan had a run. I almost put it on Phipps to just pinch him down a little much.
Yeah, there was a little bit of a pinch, a little bit of a squirrel around the track. It's what happens when you're running on old tires. Even the guys that came in, those tires are worn. It's what happens at Daytona. So here we go lining in. There you see Hagan getting the run, diving down to the inside. Yeah, definitely a pinch there from Phipps. I'm going to say there's a little more blame on Phipps, but I think ultimately at the end of the day, Joe, you're going into the last corner at Daytona. That's a racing incident.
And here's Brown with just inches to spare, up and around, and that gives him second place. That's going to take us to a quick break, though, here on the Global SimRacing Channel. After some classic cars gave us a classic, we'll be back in just a moment with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so stick around. Welcome back to Daytona International Speedway. What a stunning finish there for the race to the line, and Nicholas Lavelle was the one who took the victory in the end. He was ahead of Nathan Brown, who started the last lap in 4th. He started the race in 14th. He wound up in 2nd just by keeping it clean. Damian Hagan, unfortunately, got caught up in an incident there in turns 3 and 4, had to limp it to the line and settle for 3rd, with Jake Phipps barely getting into 4th behind them. Jack Bailey just about got past Phipps. He was in P5 at the end, and Riley Downey was in 6th. Last car on the lead lap was Michael Kelly in 7th, with Patrick Daubenberger in P8, Tony Johnson in 9th, and Kyle Graham was 10th.
Bringing the car home in 11th was Alexander Veldman. You saw the incident that he had earlier, followed by Ryan Harris and Leslie Jones in 13th. Andrew Mendez 14th, Jordan Mapes 15th, Damian Sparberger in 16th, and Tanner Cook back in 17th. The Clapper brothers unable to start today's race.
That was some stunning stuff. I think we all had quite a bit of fun here in the NASCAR Legends Series. So we're seeing if we get any drivers hopping in to talk to us about the event. But before we go, I do want to talk to both our pit reporter and to DJ about what we just saw. Christopher, I know you have a lot of experience with oval racing, both in real life and here in the sim. That was one of the most fantastic displays, both of drivers controlling the cars and the battle that we saw on track, I have to admit.
Yeah, it was pretty fantastic. Jake Phipps was five of the iRacing top 10 of the week. And all in all, you really got to hand it to Nicholas Lavelle, who he was dominant from the very beginning, and he was able to keep the car clean out front, but he had a handful as well tonight.
Certainly seemed like it. DJ, I mean, you and I get to work together to cover a few series, but none of the retro series, unfortunately. And both you and I know that we have a great love for racing history. So I have to admit, this is a joy to do this with you.
Very much so. You know, it's always great to see these cars and seeing iRacing, being able to bring this stuff back. This is why these cars are so loved and so well regarded across the board, and everybody pines back to the glory days. These cars are fantastic to see out on the track. It's gonna have to be it just takes such car control to be able to do it, and it really, really separates some of the best drivers out from the rest of the field to see who can keep it pointed forward and who can keep it first at the line.
Yeah, part of the battle of these things is not just racing each other, but yourself out here. But again, if you enjoy this sort of content, make sure and tune in this weekend, because we have 3 separate vintage series that you can watch here on GSRC, starting with the Lotus 49 Saturday morning at 8:30 a.m. Eastern. And then at noon Eastern, we have the Camel GT series. Then at 11:30 a.m. on Sunday, if you love more classic F1, head on over to the Lotus 79, where they have the Sunday Grand Prix series. With that, we want to give a big thank you to the NASCAR Legends Series for putting on such a great show for us tonight. And a big thanks goes out to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcast listed on your screen. Additional thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. And if you want to check out more of hers, there's her Bandcamp listed on the screen. Thanks to the team today, Sean, DJ, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Or you can just check out our social media, which includes Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. If you'd like to support us, make sure and check out our merchandise store at gsrc.storenvy.com. We've got a link in the description below, so it's nice and easy to find that. And while you're down there, make sure and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. Well, we don't know that we'll be back for coverage next week. The next race in this series will be at Homestead, but we do have upcoming races for other series listed on your screen that you can see on GSRC. Check those out and mark them down on your calendar. Until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.